Hello and welcome to Backstage at the photography show and the video show. I have been hosting this festival of the moving image for the last couple of days from my studio here. Normally I would be rubbing shoulders with 50,000 other photography and videography nuts at the NEC in Birmingham. However, for obvious reasons, that's not been the case this year. So it's a virtual festival. The second one that we've done, actually, we did this first back in September 2020. The next one now, spring shoots in beginning of March 2021, and fingers crossed, we'll be able to meet up again in person in September 2021. But like many people, we've been presenting, hosting, whatever, remotely from our own spaces. And that's gone from everything from one's living room or bedroom, kitchen, whatever, to studio spaces. I'm not a photographer. I'm a journalist. Video is a huge part of what I do, however. And I made the decision last year when, things were when it became clear that working from home was going to be the norm for a good while longer. Actually not to work from home any longer, but to get a studio space. And so I've got my 25-30 meter square space, that has been serving me very, very well for things like this. So what I wanted to do, as many people have been asking on social media, I really like your setup, David. How does it work? What have you got there? I thought I'd spend a couple of minutes going through it. So I guess cameras is the first thing to think about. So apart from this camera here, which I'm using kind of as a wide, just to give a bit of context here, I'll walk around with my phone and get some cutaways of the bits that I'm talking about. But the main camera that I've been broadcasting from is this one here. This is a Canon Cinema EOS C100. It's not a new camera by any stretch, but it is a videographer's camera, and it's got XLR inputs and built-in ND filters and all the rest of that. Crucially, it's got clean HDMI out, and so what I've done is I've got that HDMI out and I've got that going into a Blackmagic design ATEM Mini Pro. So this is a switcher that has been out for probably a year, just over a year or so now, and this lets me have 4 HDMI inputs. And then I can switch between them. It does some audio mixing, audio sweetening, gives me nice little transitions between them. Lets me do green screen as well. I've done that a few times. So I've got that plumbed into my Mac at the moment over USB, and then it just appears as any other webcam and audio source as well. And that works an absolute treat. Gives me 4 inputs, like I say. So I've actually got this Panasonic mirrorless camera also going out over HDMI. So if you do have a camera, whether it's a mirrorless, a DSLR or whatever, do explore the ways in which you can use that to feed your computer, your webcam, Zoom, Teams, whatever it is, because they are obviously so much better than the very thin cameras you tend to get in laptops and in a MacBook, for example. Everything else in there is top notch, but the cameras still continue, in my opinion, to be very, very poor. For the Panasonic, for example, this is a G80. Again, not a brand new camera, but it's still 4K. It's I've got a nice 20mm f1.7 lens on there. Micro HDMI out into a capture card or into the Blackmagic. The other thing, though, a tip that I also suggest if you kit yourself up, is to get the power adapter. So, and again, you can pick these up fairly cheaply online because your battery is going to run out pretty quickly on many of these cameras, and you can't easily plug in the camera while it's operational. So you get these little adapters that plug into the battery slot and will let you power it throughout the day, which I frequently do with this camera. No trouble with overheating or anything. It's actually powered by 2 USB cables. And that's it. That's brilliant. So definitely do that. I have tried in the past to do this with an older Canon DSLR that I've got here as well, and that does tend to overheat after about 20 minutes or so, but probably a little bit less depending on the ambient temperature. Anyway, so HDMI's into a switcher or directly into a capture card. I've got a USB dongle, again about £20, not very expensive anymore. and that will plug in again over USB and let me have good quality, really good quality video into my software. What else have I got going on? Audio is obviously very important. There are enough wires around this studio. I don't want to be tripping over any more. So two things. I need to be able to be heard. So I've got these this little Røde system, which is great. And this, you can use this on its own. It's got a microphone built into it, which is fantastic. Or you can just plug in a LavMic, and then that's going into my C100. But also I need to be able to hear what's coming back at me, whether that's the studio director saying, right, David, we're going live in 5, 4, 3, blah, 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 or the other contributors. I don't want that to be coming over the speakers. Some AirPods are fine, and I do have AirPods, although sometimes the audio quality can drop down a little bit, particularly if you're talking and receiving audio at the same time. So I've actually got one of these. This is an earpiece. This is a custom molded earpiece, I should say. I've had this for a few years now. I've got one for each ear. Man comes round, squirts some gel into your ear, takes a mold, and you get one of these in the post a few days later. You don't, because I do this a lot, it's been worthwhile for me having that done. It's about £250 when I had it done, so not a huge deal, but you can get standard ones that just fit in your ear. They can fall out sometimes, well, actually quite often, depending on the shape of your ear. So having the molded one is good for me. And all they do is plug into a standard 3.5mm jack that I do have. I can have it wireless, and I've got a Bluetooth adapter that will let me do that from my laptop. So audio going into the camera and trying to keep the picture and the audio on the same feed, I find is really important, because when I've had my microphone feed going straight into my laptop or into the Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini Pro here, because that does give you a couple of microphone inputs, I do find that you can be out of sync with the video, which can be very distracting. You know, and I know online video isn't always great, but you know, if it's always, you know, 10 frames out in a 25 frames a second timeline, that can be quite distracting. So I try to keep the audio and the video through the same source. So even if overall it's delayed by, you know, 5 or 10, 15, 20 milliseconds or something, at least the audio and the video are in sync. The other thing that I've got here, a couple of, well, actually three things. On top of my camera, I've got a Blackmagic Design Video Assist that is straight out of my camera, and that lets me see what shot is coming through. Again, let me just change the shot up because I can. So that lets me see what is being sent down the line. And also on these, they've got a touch screen. I can swipe down and I can see the audio level bouncing up and down. And that just gives me a little bit of reassurance that there's no audio interference. I've had that for various reasons, once upon dodgy cables and so on, or that my audio hasn't dropped out altogether, which, you know, it can happen. So at least I get an eyeball straight away. If I see those green bouncing lines, then generally that's a good sign. And it's just above the eye line of the lens, so I can see it in my periphery and not have that distracting thing where my eye's darting all over the place. Speaking of which, two other things. Just below the screen here, I have got a little LCD panel. It's only small, it's 7 inches, 10 inches or something like that. And that is what I will tend to have my contributors on. So if it's a Zoom session, or if it's using vMix or any of the other technologies, whatever, or if it's in a web browser, then that means that I can see the people who I'm talking to, and it's just below the camera line. And, you know, in general, that doesn't look as though I'm looking elsewhere. It keeps my eye line towards the camera, which is quite important. And then the third thing that I've got there is a teleprompter. This is a little Padcaster Parrot teleprompter. It uses a smartphone. I've got a spare smartphone kicking around, one that I'm not using anymore. And there's an app that goes with it. It's not the best app in the world, but it's fine. And that has got a 45-ish degree angle piece of glass that scrolls the text that I'm reading in the line right down the middle of the lens, so that the lens can't see it. I can. I've got a remote control that comes with it just here. So I can read the text. I can go forwards and backwards. You can have foot pedals, and I've used those in the past. I might get one of those just so I can keep my hands nice and free. But this is quite discreet. So I can read, take us back to where it all began, 1962, and your experience of working first in colour and then the dance with black and white is some text that I happen to have on the screen there. And that is pretty much it. Obviously, lights. I've got softbox here, LED giving me some backlight here. The backdrop is, I'd say this is like 3.5 meters wide, I think. The backdrop is 3 meters wide, 2 meters tall. Again, I'll just switch displays, switch cameras there. So I've just got this backdrop here, this white painted brick backdrop, cost about £30, £30 or something from Amazon. I've got a few different backdrops depending on what look I want to create. It's fine, it could probably do with a bit of steam or a bit of iron to iron out the kinks. But by sitting forward of the backdrop, again, you can see a bit about how far forward I am from it here. But by sitting forward of the backdrop, opening up the aperture just a little bit. I mean, I'm at f5.3. Just because that's about right for exposure. I could probably open it up a little bit more. That gets rid of some of the crinkles from here. If I had a larger studio, I'd probably come a little bit further out. But it's fine. And then I've lit it up a little bit just to give it a little bit of lift. I've got a couple of these Elgato key lights, I think they are, that I can control. Actually, there's a little utility that lets me just pop them off. There we go. So that's the difference that it makes. I mean, that I don't mind that look either, but actually having them on's a little bit nicer, and I can adjust the white balance too, so they match the light that I've got in the middle. So that's bring them down to what, 6,000 or something like that. So yeah, a little bit of a colder look. Yeah, you can play around. It's nice to have lighting that you can control, particularly if you are self-shooting, self-producing. It's nice to have lighting that you can control from your laptop while you can see what the output looks like. I think that's pretty much everything. Oh yeah, and of course this screen here, it's not rocket science, it's just an old 21-inch monitor that has been sat in a garage for an awfully long time, but then I thought it could be quite useful. I've got an old Apple TV on the back here, and then I've got an iPad. Again, I'll just bring that in. There we go. So just here is an iPad, and all I'm using is AirPlay, and just casting the image onto the screen, and it's fine. It's not high tech. I could be a lot more adventurous, and I could have some animated logo on here if I'm provided with one, or if I'm talking over particular images with a photographer, for example. I could have done that earlier today. Then not only could they be on the feed, I could have them on the screen here. That certainly could be something to have a play with in the future. But that's about it, really. I mean, I guess the other thing to say is that I've got a good, strong internet connection here, and I'm hardwired in. My Mac is hardwired in via a little breakout box down here, because even though my Wi-Fi router is just there, I don't want to be relying on Wi-Fi. I really want to have as many guarantees that my line isn't going to go down. I have ping. I open up a terminal prompt, and I have ping, which is a command line utility that just sends a couple of packets of internet stuff to a server somewhere else on the internet. Ping 8.8.8.8, that's a server owned by Google. And I can see that it will tell me if my internet connection is slowing down, and if indeed any of my packets, my internet packets, are being dropped. I've got a 7 millisecond ping here, which is pretty good. So nice low latency, and I've got 60 megabits symmetric up and down here, which is more than enough for sending 720p or 1080p video. That is my studio setup. And I'm fortunate that I've got another setup over there where that camera is at a desk. So if it's a different type of job where I'm sat down, Perhaps I might be hosting a conference and I need a laptop in front of me and books or something like that. I've got the bookcase behind you, which is the thing that you have these days. And another screen, actually. I've got an iMac screen that, again, I can have a bit of branding on, or just be a bit clever with what I want to put on there. Yeah, the studio's really made a difference to my work. Working out this kit setup that I can trust. More importantly, that clients who I'm working for, you know, the photography show's a great example of that. I don't want this kit going down midway through an interview with Rankin or Joel Meyerowitz like earlier today. You know, thankfully the tech was solid, and I've been using this kit and building up trust in it and building up different pieces of tech. You know, I didn't just buy this first off. You know, I've experimented, goodness knows, with lots of different things before I've found technology combination that gives me the flexibility to do what I think, what I need to do, what clients need me to do, and also, yeah, the flexibility and the reliability. So yeah, if you have any questions about home studio setups, or if you indeed, look, I'm pretty humble about this. I've been making it up as I go along. If you've got any suggestions for alternatives that might work a little bit better for me, I'm always looking for tips on lighting, because that's probably been my biggest journey over the course of the year. Then leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, start up a conversation. I think that this is only going to be a growing thing as we go forward. You know, the needle has already shifted as a result of what happened in 2020. So you know, let's share tips. Let's you know, see what community is out there for how we can all improve the video quality, and for those of us who are freelance, you know, build up the opportunities that we have to grow the work that we do and to make it as good as it possibly can be. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope that was quite interesting. It turned out to be a little bit longer than a 2-minute chat through, but I hope that was interesting. And yeah, have fun in wherever you are shooting. Keep in touch. Bye-bye.